Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are tackling a genuinely life-changing concept, how financial intelligence creates real power. We're going to be breaking down the core insights from Robert Kiyosaki's absolute classic, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You know, society constantly feeds us this narrative that real power and security come from climbing the corporate ladder, earning a massive salary, and just grinding it out. But the truth? Real power doesn't come from your paycheck at all. It comes from mastering the rules of money. Without financial literacy, even the absolute highest earners can find themselves completely trapped.
Robert Kiyosaki hits the nail on the head here. He says, the poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. I mean, it sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But this single paradigm shift changes absolutely everything we've been taught about escaping what Kiyosaki calls the rat race. We are trained from day one to trade our time for dollars, to be completely reliant on an employer. But to gain actual, lasting power, we literally have to flip that entire equation upside down.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to look at the illusion of power, redefine assets versus liabilities, break down the 4 financial pillars, talk about why you must pay yourself first, map out the cash flow quadrant, and finally, define true financial independence. All right, let's jump right in to part 1, the illusion of power. Have you ever wondered why incredibly brilliant people, doctors, lawyers, top executives, can still struggle financially their entire lives? Well, it's because money without financial intelligence is money soon gone. The source material contrasts 2 totally different philosophies to illustrate this, embodied by 2 fathers. On the left, you've got the poor dad. He's highly educated but struggling, and he says the love of money is the root of all evil. On the right is the rich dad. He never even finished the 8th grade, but he deeply understood money. He argues the lack of money is the root of all evil. It's just a profound difference in mental programming. When the poor dad said, "I can't afford it," his brain just shut down. It lets you off the hook. But when the rich dad asked, "How can I afford it?" his brain was immediately put to work. The words we use literally dictate our financial reality. And, this brings us to the ultimate trap, our emotions. Emotion is really just energy in motion. But the middle class is constantly ruled by the emotions of fear and greed. They feel this deep fear of not having money, right? So they rush off to work. They get that paycheck, and then the greed or just desire kicks in, so they go buy things. It's an endless loop. The wealthy, however, observe their emotions instead of just reacting to them blindly. They use that energy in motion to think logically. They replace the fear of not having enough with the empowering, creative question of how to actually generate more. Moving right along to Section 2, Assets versus Liabilities. To build real power, we have to completely redefine 2 fundamental words using the KISS principle. Keep it super simple. Honestly, forget the dense dictionary definitions that just confuse everyone. Focus entirely on cash flow. An asset is simply something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. That's the whole shebang. Rule number 1 is just knowing this difference, and then spending your life buying actual assets. Let's track the money here and look at the cash flow pattern of a financially intelligent person. Notice how this flows. They acquire assets down at the bottom left, think real estate, stocks, bonds, notes. And what do those things do? They pump cash right up into the income column through dividends, interest, and rental income. It's like having a little army working for you. The money is doing the heavy lifting, generating income around the clock without their physical labor. Now contrast that with the middle-class cash flow pattern. People so often buy liabilities, a massive new house, a luxury car, the latest tech gadgets, and they falsely believe they're buying assets. But look at the flow. These things don't generate income. Actually, scratch that. They generate huge expenses like a heavy mortgage, taxes, and consumer loans. Cash is just flying out of their pockets, forcing them to cling desperately to their salary just to keep their heads above water. Which leads us to Section 3, the 4 financial pillars. So how do we practically invent, multiply, and protect our money? Well, it requires raising your financial IQ across 4 distinct technical skills. First up is accounting. That's basic financial literacy, the ability to read the numbers and understand the story they tell about your cash flow. Second is investing, the actual science of having money make money. Third is understanding markets, getting a grasp on supply and demand, knowing what people actually want. And fourth is the law, being aware of corporate structures and tax regulations so you can legally protect what you've earned. Let's zoom in on that 4th pillar, the law, because this is a total game changer. Notice the subtle difference in the order of operations here. Employees who work for corporations earn their money, they pay their taxes right off the top, and then they try to live on whatever's left over to spend.
But business owners operating within a corporate structure, they do it totally differently. They earn, they spend on legal pre-tax expenses, and they pay taxes only on what is left. Real power is knowing how to legally structure your wealth.
All right, on to section 4. Pay yourself first. Knowing all those mechanics isn't going to do much if you lack the mental fortitude to execute them. Let's trace the cash flow pattern of someone who applies George Clason's classic rule, paying themselves first. When their salary hits the bank, it immediately flows down to their asset column, into savings, investments, and real estate. Only after they have allocated money to build their assets do they pay their monthly bills. They are literally prioritizing their own financial future over everyone else's invoices. Now, I know exactly what you might be thinking, but what if I come up short for my bills? So the crucial point here is how the truly wealthy handle that exact situation. If they come up short, they absolutely do not dip into their savings. They let the pressure of those unpaid bills build up. Why on earth would they do that? Because they use that intense pressure to force their brain to find creative new ways to make money. They use the fear of the bill collector to fire up their internal financial genius. It makes them mentally and fiscally stronger, rather than weakening their asset column to take the easy way out. Moving right along to section 5, the cash flow quadrant. Now that we've got the mindset down, we need a structural map of the business world to show exactly where true financial freedom lives. The whole working world is divided into 4 quadrants based on where your cash comes from. Over on the left side, we have the E for employee and the S for self-employed or small business owner. On the right side, we have the B for big business owner and the I for investor. The tricky part, our school system primarily trains us to exist almost exclusively on that left side. The contrast between these two sides is basically night and day. On the left side, the E's and S's are working for money. They get taxed heavily, they rely completely on their own physical labor for a paycheck, and their main driver is a desire for job security. But true power? That sits entirely on the right side. The B's and I's have money and systems working for them. They control their cash flow, they use legal tax advantages, and their ultimate goal isn't job security at all. It's total financial freedom. The whole key to wealth is migrating yourself over to the right side of the quadrant. And finally, section 6, true financial independence.
So, what do all these mechanics, corporate laws, and mindset shifts actually achieve in the end? They achieve wealth. But we need to define wealth correctly. The source material borrows this brilliant definition from R. Buckminster Fuller. He says, wealth is a person's ability to survive X number of days forward if they stopped working today. Just think about that for a second. Wealth isn't some arbitrary high net worth or having a garage full of expensive junk. To put that into perspective, wealth is measured in time, not dollars. It's the measure of the cash flow from your asset column compared directly to your expense column. When your assets generate enough cash to cover your expenses indefinitely, bingo, you are truly wealthy.
Okay, let's bring it all together and summarize the core strategy we've explored today. First, you have to consciously choose your mindset every single day and invest heavily in your own financial education. Second, hey, it's perfectly fine to keep your day job for now, but you absolutely must mind your own business, meaning aggressively build up your own asset column on the side. And third, the ultimate goal, systematically convert your highly taxed earned income into passive and portfolio income. So I want to leave you with a provocative question to really chew on and evaluate your own financial choices. If you stopped working today, like right this second, how long could you actually survive? Are the things you spend your hard-earned money on actually building your asset column and buying your freedom? Or are you just accumulating liabilities that keep you trapped in the rat race? Financial intelligence is the key that unlocks that cage. The choice and the power is entirely yours. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.